you're going to get connection, and knowing how that's going to happen before you do it. Trying to do it in post is extremely difficult and time consuming. To figure it out later.
So I have two very patient people in the back here.
Have advances in technology like HD TV and people having the ability to actually pause their televisions had any effect on the industry?
It's made us very, very surprised how much they know about our work. Being able to pause on these things. And Easter eggs are a lot harder to hide in movies. No, we don't usually get that. I mean, we just try to do the best we can with the work we do. We don't really think too much about, how people are going to pause. We kind of hope they don't pause in the wrong scenes. No, we just do the best we can.
Ray Harryhausen used to say, when you'd ask him, I looked at the skeleton fight, frame by frame on my TV, and I found this, and oh my, you're not supposed to analyze these frame by frame. Never intended to be viewed that way. So don't do that.
We have the gentleman in blue in the back who's been trying to get a question for a while, and then we'll hop over here.
Okay, I was just leading up to the question that you guys just said. It's like, since they have all these crazy people wanting to pause your work, do you have any like jokes, in-jokes, or anything that make it through the executive filters?
Some of the jokes come from the executive. Seriously, no, it's a tradition in film.
I don't know what you're talking about because we're trained professionals.
We would never partake in something so immature.
I ended up sculpting my initials in the top of the T-Rex head. Put a big MT up there, and Stan came and saw it one morning. He goes, "What's this, Mike? What's this?" And I said, he goes, "What's this MT?" I said, "Stan, it's upside down. It's WI for Winston Incorporated." He just kind of shook his head and walked off. And you would have seen him on the cover of Newsweek, but they put the damn Newsweek banner right over them. So.
There's actually a really good one in Nightmare Before Christmas. A bunch of us went out to lunch one day. We were in San Francisco, and our entrance was the back alley, so it was kind of gross. A lot of pigeons, and one day someone found a pigeon claw just sitting on the street, and it was kind of run over and flat, and it had this great shape to it. And so they picked it up and they put it on the wall of the model shop, and it became the Claw. And so we all, everyone got into calling it the Claw. And then, as creative people, we kind of run with those things. And then it became, there was a logo actually drawn for the Claw. It's the word claw, with the claw coming out of it. And it just became this thing. And then next thing you know, someone had a paint stencil. And so all over the studio, if you watch behind the scenes, you'll see Claw written on the walls. And then in the movie, it became such a fun thing for all of us that every time there was something that required a brand name, like the car, or on the piano right above the keyboard, this little text there, it would always say Claw. There's some people that work at Pixar that were on Nightmare Before Christmas, so we don't know if there's, I've never ran into someone, but there was definitely the more Claw jokes to come.
Ma'am in pink.
Kind of that same line of thought. Are there any things like eggs that you put in the movie accidentally and you're like, oh my god, I can't believe I did that, and everyone just talks about it and hopefully that happens?
There's a thing in Jurassic Park where, and I blame ILM completely for this.
I'll accept full responsibility on behalf of ILM.
There's a scene where the raptors come into the kitchen. When the raptor kind of nudges the door open a couple of times, then it pushes it open. Then there's a long shot of the raptor stepping through the door, or maybe it's already stepped through the door and it's standing there. If you look closely while it's still in the door frame, you'll see a hand reach up and just steady the Raptors tail. And then just kind of disappear. We don't know who that was, but you know, we saw that the first time we saw it in cast crew screening. I went, oh my God, whose arm is that? You know, and ILM easily could have taken this out. You know, they could have digitally removed the arm for us, but I think they left it in just to, you know, show that practical effects aren't all they're cracked up to be. So, yeah, so you have to look for that in JP next time you do it.
Sir, you had a question?
On your personal side, when you go see a movie, do you ever catch yourself criticizing someone else's work in the movie? Saying I could have done that better or something like that?
Oh, well, you know, going to a movie as a movie professional is a very, very different experience. So yeah, I wouldn't say that we badmouth each other because there's a lot of camaraderie within the business and we know how these things happen. Because we're not always as happy with our work as we could be because of schedules and budgets and decisions that are not ours. Yes. You see this. No.
But aside from that, yes, it happens all the time.
It drives you crazy when you see something in a movie that you know could be better, and it takes you out of the story, and it happens actually all the time, probably more for us than it would people who don't work in the industry, because we'll spot little things. Like I remember there's a thing we do called greeting. So if we have a product in the shot for a movie, and we don't have permission from, say, Sony to use their name on a remote control, we'll greek it. So we'll actually cover the Sony logo with a piece of black tape. Or just cover the S. You'll see a lot of Oni products. And sometimes I'll spot the greeking. I think that'd be the most common thing that no one else would see, but I'll see it like an awning in the background of a hotel, and you'll see this really horribly pinned up piece of green fabric that doesn't even match the color and stuff like that. So it's those kind of OCD things that we'll kind of latch onto in films. Not to mention like bad effects. You don't ever want to notice an effect. The best effect are the ones that you don't notice. And the best compliment I have ever received on a movie is like, oh, I didn't know that was a miniature. Which thankfully happens more times than not. Especially these days, a lot of people think we're not doing miniatures anymore. We've just gotten really good at it.
So we're getting to the portion of the panel where we're going to need to start wrapping up because we're towards the end of our time. Let's go with the gentleman in blue here and gentleman in white. I know both of them have been very patient with waiting for their questions.
I actually have two questions.
Speak up.
You know, the first one is, are there any new technologies that you guys are looking forward to in the future that might be better, like such as holograms or other stuff like that? And secondly, how would you feel as an artist if, like, a franchise were to be rooted, like, say, Jurassic Park, and your work is built off of, like, maybe by other producers and stuff like that? Would you take it as more of a legacy, or would you be like, oh my God, that was mine? Don't do that.
No, I don't really go there in my mind. It's, you know, I did this for, you know, any work you do for, you know, whoever you're working for, Stan or Kevin or somebody. And it's a lot of their vision. It's, you know, it's obviously your work and you're putting your interpretation of somebody else's vision. So you kind of divorce yourself from it a little bit. I know that I'm sure, like, you know, Mark Crash McCreary, who did all the illustrations on Jurassic Park. You know, they ended up on like bed sheets and coffee mugs, and I know he felt kind of, but he got a check from Universal for that. They gave him a check for $1, and they, you know, basically said, we own this stuff, so, you know, we'll do what we want with it. You know, so that's kind of different. I think I would have been, you know, felt really slighted there. But no, with sculpture, it's, you know, or a piece, no, it really belongs to, you know, the studio, I guess, or the franchise. You know, if they're still using it, it's, you know, kind of flattering, but you know, things do change. They do change over time.
Yeah, there's so much rebooting and reimagining of everything these days. It's really hard to take it personal.
Yep.
On the technology side of your question, At New Deal Studios, where I'm at now, one of the reasons they've survived as long as they have is through adopting as much technology as they can. So not just doing practical, but doing CG. And one of the exciting things we're getting into now is VR. They've got these new cameras that can shoot all directions at one time. And you can actually view it with a headset, and you can look wherever you want instead of being restricted to just the screen. So that's the most exciting, and it's in 3D. So that's one of the most exciting things we're working in right now. We're doing a lot of that. So yeah, we're always looking for what that next thing is and trying to be the first ones on board to do it. That's what Industrial Light Magic was known for. The technology that was brought into creature effects with servos, and those used to be aircraft servos. Now they're robotic servos. So yeah, you have to stay on top of all of it. There's always innovation. That's one of the really great things about our job, is that the innovation is always happening, the creativity is always happening, the variety is always there. Every project is different from soup to nuts. It's just never the same, so it never gets boring. It's great.
Sir in the white, why don't you bring us home?
How much of what you do did you pick up in school versus on the job? And if my 19-year-old daughter, who's an art student and interested in this, especially the practical side, if she were here, what advice would you give her as far as preparing to get into the career that you're in?
Practical effects. I would say, depending on what she wants to do, if she wants to do appliance makeup, that type of thing. If she wants to get into the sculpting end, I would say study anatomy. Because I tell students, I have taught some sculpting workshops back in Sedona, and I tell my students, if you can sculpt the human face and make it look like a human face, just Uncle Bob or Aunt Jenny or whoever, and it looks like a real face, or maybe even looks like it might have been cast from a real face, then you can do anything. Sculpting a weird, three-eyed, bug-eyed monster is easy after that. So I would say, study anatomy, draw all the time. Have a sketchbook, and draw. Put your ideas, in a sketchbook, because that helps your brain develop a visual dialogue, with your hands, so you can get your visions out and bring them into the real world and share them with other people. Those are probably two of the paramount things I would say. That and just stick to it. Getting into the industry, like for me, I grew up in Pittsburgh. That's about as far away from LA as you can get. A suburb of Pittsburgh, and but I had a drive. I had a singular vision that I never wavered from. I never turned away from that and thought, geez, I better do something else. This isn't going to work. That never occurred to me. So desire is 90% of it. Talent may be like less than 10%.
It's counterintuitive, because you always hear you need to have a backup plan.
Yeah.
But if you're going to survive in the motion picture industry or entertainment, you need to not have a backup plan.
Yeah.
Because if you have a backup plan, you'll use it.
Yeah.
It's so true. It's a great time actually for people who are interested in learning how to make things, whether you want to pursue it as a career or not. Make Magazine is it's this whole movement. Maker fairs are amazing. People are sharing ideas more than ever. The idea of a trade secret is gone. That used to be a really big deal when I started. The internet did not exist when we started. The internet is packed with stuff. YouTube is amazing. Stan Winston School of Character Arts, I just started teaching with them. They have just phenomenal lessons that teach you the most intricate, great tricks behind motion picture special effects.
We would have killed for this when we were starting out.
Absolutely. I have a lot of unfinished projects from my youth because I got to a point where I didn't know how to finish.
Yeah.
And it's very, very frustrating. So watching kids today, I get very jealous.
It was like walking around in a dark room, kept bumping our heads on the wall, and things, objects in the way, and it's like trying to hunt and peck our way through this and figure out, oh, okay, I gotta make them mold this way this time, because the last one's stuck together, you know.
There's also forums, you know, there's a lot of forums on the internet. The RPF is really popular for people who like to be proper applicants, and they share a lot of information on how they do things. The product websites, even like Smooth On, has video demonstrations of how to use all their products. I have a couple DVDs out, highly recommend those. Available on Amazon.com. But seriously, you know, work ethic is, I'd say, half of it. A good attitude is another 25%, and technique and creativity and all that is the other 25%. You cannot forget the work ethic part of it. I've seen some very, very talented artists fail because they just don't want to work. You know, they don't want to do their hours. And the show must go on, that saying kind of says it all, really. Because that's, when you're on set, once you get to that point where you're doing photography, you could be burning $200,000 an hour or more. And when something breaks, it needs to be fixed right then. Everything needs to be like clockwork. You know, that's why you're on standby sitting around, because when they're ready for that shot, they cannot wait.
Yeah,
So that's the kind of mentality you need to bring to the table.
Yeah, when we were on set and, you know, we were called, you know, we suddenly became British crack troops. Yes, sir! You know, you showed up right away and you were there and, you know,
And
got
there's
things done.
No failure.
Yeah.
Things can fail, but the people can't.
Yeah.
You know.
Other than that, it's an easy business.
Yeah, and you know, you can actually, there's a lot of us that are now on Facebook and Twitter and have YouTube channels and Instagram, and you know, you know, Stan Winston has that, New Deal Studios has that, I have that. You know, there's a lot of ways to really kind of get in and see the nitty-gritty day-to-day work that we do. It's amazing. It's actually a really good time for all of that.
So as we close out here, I just wanted to let everybody know that if you want to see more of Fawn, we'll be signing at the NTGI Entertainment booth. That's number 1633. And he's actually at another panel tomorrow from 10:30 to 11:30 inside Star Wars Miniatures and Visual Effects. If you want to see more of Mike, he'll also be signing over at the main exhibition hall in AA6. And if you missed his Jurassic Park T-Rex presentation on Thursday, he's going to be giving it again